Hello, welcome back to the channel. Football is life. How is everybody out there, you legends? We've just had a massive weekend of English FA Cup football this weekend, and I couldn't wait to get on and round it all up and do another episode this week, looking at the football that's happened this week. Okay, so massive stuff going on in the FA Cup. I'm going to look at a couple bits that have come in the news last week before the weekend. And then tonight, looking ahead at a massive week of European football ahead with some crucial big games for English clubs. All right, so let's roll straight into it. Before we do, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow the channel. Please check out the content. Keep supporting, keep watching. All right, and we'll crack straight into it. And obviously, no better place today than start with, the big shock, the team that's done it. We were looking for a team this weekend that maybe could provide a shock, and there hasn't been many until today. And Port Vale have beaten Sunderland at home in the FA Cup with Ben Wane's goal, and just what an achievement for Port Vale. Getting that far, it's really not an easy thing to do for a League One club to get this far. So an incredible achievement, and not many would have had them beaten Sunderland. Not today, not really on any day. And it's a massive FA Cup shock. And what we love about the English game is how these lower league clubs can pit it with the best in the country. If it was a league game, you'd just be back in Sunderland all day long, and you just on the squad for squad. But you add the FA Cup into it, you just add that drama. Teams with nothing to lose, can they get? And I mean, just financially and just everything for Port Vale, a massive result. They're not having a great season. They're down the bottom of League One, look destined for League Two. And today they've just put everything on the line, and it just shows you on a one-off occasion, in the beautiful FA Cup in this country, where we get these magnificent occasions and games, we have got a big cup shock. So a massive well done to them. I just thought that was a brilliant result. Great for English football. Obviously, it's not for Sunderland fans. They're not going to agree with me. But amazing result. Great achievement for Port Vale, and just so well done to them. Who they get in the next round on Monday night in the draw is going to be fascinating. But yeah, for a League One club to get that far, it's just an incredible story and brilliant for English football. So we had to start with Port Vale. I mean, they fought when they dug in. They had to dig in. When they could play, they tried to play, and got their just rewards. And they're through. Massive loss to Sunderland, because I think you've had a brilliant season, and a real cup run to Wembley in a semi-final, Wembley at a final would have really capped it off, but it's not to be, and Port Vale fly on through to the next round. Obviously, then we go to Saturday's games, and some really standout performances. Obviously, all the big guns have gone through, barring Port Vale, and obviously Southampton today got a magnificent result at Fulham. But all the other teams have gone through, haven't they? But we have to give a massive shout out again to a League One club, Mansfield Town, who just fought Arsenal all the way. I thought they were terrific. Just even looking at the game and then looking at the stats behind the game, the amount of shots that they got against an Arsenal team, it's more shots than some Premier League clubs have been able to muster up against them this season. So, they pushed Arsenal all the way. They've scored against Arsenal, and Arsenal have had to really battle through to get through that and on to the next round. So, again, another League One club doing League One proud, and great to see Mansfield with another great cup run like that, and just pushing the Arsenal top of the league, best team in the country, arguably, but best team in the country as league position kind of stands out. And they pushed them all the way, and Arsenal have snuck through onto the next round. And also a game last night, televised game, obviously last night on TNT, was Wrexham versus Chelsea. And I mean, that was another brilliant FA Cup game, just absolute quality. And Wrexham as well, even when going down to 10 men and extra time, pushing Chelsea all the way. And Wrexham, they've really done amazingly, like we've said before on the channel, getting up from the conference to the high end of the Championship, could still go to the Premier League, and they would be a great addition to the Premier League. But yeah, just the players that they've added and the football that they're playing, it's a massive credit to Wrexham, the owners obviously, and Phil Parkinson. I mean, what a job. But they pushed Chelsea the whole way. Yes, Chelsea made some changes, but they still had quality on that pitch, and Wrexham really on another night could have easily have gone through that game, gone through to the next round. They're taking the lead, and they were just in it the whole game. And they looked really, really good value to possibly go through. So, beauty of the FA Cup just exactly shows the kind of level that we have in this country in that competition. So well done to Wrexham, but I know they'll be bitterly disappointed to go out. But an incredible achievement again from well, you can't really call them a lower league club, but yeah, they tested Chelsea all the way, and Chelsea had to really pull out everything they had. I think the thing that kind of let Wrexham down was when they scored, they seemed to then just lose the focus, and Chelsea kind of just stepped it up straight from the kickoff and got themselves quick kind of equalisers during the game, and it paid off in the end. And I mean, what an advertisement for FA Cup football. So Mansfield and Wrexham, albeit going out, they really did give themselves a lot of credit and come away with a lot of credit after those ties. And obviously all the other big guns have kind of gone through. Liverpool going through on Friday night looked much better against Wolves. Wolves not quite having the display that they've had in previous games, and Liverpool good value for that. And Man City doing I thought a great job on Newcastle last night. City looked really good, and we're kind of getting to the business end now, as we are in Europe, that we're going to look into later in the episode. It's business end, it's business time, and kind of Man City, I thought, turned up and gave an amazing performance, and they're a team that nobody's going to want to face in this FA Cup. That's for sure. So yeah, just buzzing. I'm buzzing with that. Brilliant weekend of football. Love the FA Cup. If the Premier League is not on the telly, the FA Cup for me and the Champions League are obviously the next best things. But I'll tell you what, the Championship is also producing some good football this season, and Wrexham just kind of showed exactly that. So yeah, that's kind of a weekend roundup. Really enjoyed the games that were on. And then Leeds obviously today going through. So the draw on Monday night, we've obviously still got West Ham and Brentford to go through as well, one of them two, but it's going to be a cracking draw, and some big games in the next round, and getting close to the end of the competition. It's going to be really good until the end. So yeah, really good competition this season. We've had quite a few shocks, teams from lower down with great stories, but yeah, really good and really impressive season for a lot of those teams that have had great cup runs. I'm going to go into a couple of things, as I've said, that I saw this week. And one of them, obviously, massively interesting is KSI buying a minority stake in Dagenham and Redbridge, which, obviously he's got a background, London lad, and, is obviously maybe from the area and things like that. But it was kind of the thing that really interests me is there's obviously, there's wealth to be gained from these top YouTubers, and the way we digest information now in this country and probably through most of the world is we're watching streaming sites, we're watching the YouTubes, we're watching far less, television to schedule, that is a complete fact. And more people know about YouTubers, not everyone, but more people, across the world now are tuning into YouTube channels and the like. So is it, for me, the question was, is it the first real main kind of YouTuber that has accumulated that sort of wealth and dream and be a big kind of football fan, made money through YouTube, investing in a club? I think I can't think of another big YouTuber that's bought an English football club or bought into an English football club. There might well be, and I'd love to know if you can let me know. but just a really interesting story. And it's kind of like the Wrexham one, but on a few levels down. And how far can KSI, how far can he influence the club and put into the club and maybe take more of the club over during the years? How high can he take them? He's already said, the ambition is to get them in the Football League and get them up through some divisions. So, that's going to be really interesting. I saw that he was at the game on the weekend in his Dagenham shirt. There's videos of him celebrating in the crowd. And, I think it is great, successful YouTubers. It's a great story that, you may have a dream, you love your football, you've carved out a great career and a life for yourself through YouTube, and rightly so, because it's a source of information that we're all digesting. But to be involved in Dagenham is just a great story. And it'll be really interesting to see how he does over the coming years. My prediction is I think he can get him in the Football League, or certainly help and get more investment into that club. And, a great story, a great club to take over as well, a London club, which will have potential of being in London if they go up through some divisions. The potential's there to go higher. But, it's a really interesting story. Obviously a YouTuber. I'm loving doing my YouTube as well. So, it's definitely one to talk about. And how far can KSI take Dagenham and Redbridge? Let us know, comment, all right, subscribe. But let me know, where can KSI take Dagenham to? It's going to be an interesting ride for sure. And then the other one that I kind of wanted to pick up that I haven't picked up yet on camera is the Championship. And what I think is really controversial news is the Championship playoffs going to 6 teams from next season. Now, I know during the course of time that football needs to adapt. We've done things like, we've introduced technology. We've got rid of replays for scheduling. We've tried to move Christmas fixtures around. We've tried to put breaks in, all this kind of thing. But this rule seems to go against, it's definitely more TV pushed. It's got to be TV pushed and money pushed it to some degree, that there's something hidden behind that. Because I don't think the teams trying to break into the top 20 in the country to gain more money I don't think it's helping the teams, the players, any sort of schedule like that for lower league football to try and break into the Premier League. Because what you're asking teams to do is go for a 46 game season in the Championship, which is, players don't get much of a break at that level. They get the end of the season and they're back into football straight away again. So you're now asking teams to play 46 games, blood, sweat and tears. You could finish third in the Championship, and then you are in a playoff situation with 5 other teams that have finished below you in the playoffs and not make it through to the Premier League. So it's a funny one, because what you're asking teams to do, players to do, is play more games, when we're already saying that, and they've kind of alluded to it and accepted that, footballers are playing too much. Yes, they're on great money and they're in the right entertainment at the right time, they're earning the money, but it kind of goes against most of the things that football is trying to do, is trying to cut down on schedules. This has increased it. So it must be more games on the telly. They're trying to get more drama, more entertainment, more teams lower down in the division, I suppose, with a chance to break into that Premier League. But if a team finishes 7th, 8th in the Championship and then goes up, I mean, what is the likelihood of them staying up anyway? I just don't get it. I do think it's controversial, and I don't think it's a good thing. I think the playoffs at 4 with a semi-final and a final was enough after the season's finished. So I'm not a massive fan. I'll wait to see it next year and see if it kind of improves the quality and the standard and the entertainment. But I really am not convinced by that at all. So that kind of rounds up those points, okay? And then I just wanted to finish off. It's a massive week this week of Champions League games. So we have the Champions League Tuesday and Wednesday, and Europa on Thursday. And obviously some English clubs have got some massive ties this week. I mean, it really is, again, like the FA Cup, where the business end of the season is coming in. And we're starting to see now some really massive ties. And some of the English clubs that have kind of coasted through the quality so far and showing their teeth of being better than, some of Europeans, bang average kind of sides, I suppose. Now they're going to come up against real sides at the top end of their leagues in really tough ties this week. So I'm going to try and go through 1v1 Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday to finish this episode off, all right, till later in the week. And Tuesday we start in the Champions League with Galatasaray versus Liverpool. Okay, now Galatasaray did a really great job in the last round, putting Juventus out. And that's a tough place to go and a tough team to face over two legs. Yes, Liverpool, done so well in Europe over the years and a real force in European football, and they have been this season. So, over the two legs, I think you would expect Liverpool to edge through. But I think going to Turkey is a really, really tough test. And I don't think they're going to get the win in Turkey. I think they might just come up a cropper a little bit in this one, but I think they'll do enough. They'll get a draw just going through. I think then at home in the second leg would be my guess. So I'm going to go Galatasaray 1, Liverpool 1 on the night, but Liverpool really feeling a really tough test in this one. And then it's Atletico Madrid v Spurs. Now, look, we know that the trouble Spurs are in. I mean, the Champions League this year has been a break for Spurs. It's been a welcome break from all the problems that they've faced. But now I think it's kind of serious, and they've got a really, really difficult game. A really massively difficult game. I love Atletico Madrid. I think they're quality. Simeone, absolute quality. And I love the signing of Lookman that they've got in this season for the future. And yeah, just a really well-run football club. So I do think this will be a bridge too far for Spurs. I just think with some injuries, some lack of quality. I mean, if they were a really top outfit, they would be higher in the Premier League. They would prove that over the course of time. So I think they're going to really struggle over two legs against a really organised Atletico Madrid side. And I think Tottenham, it's not going to start well on Tuesday. And I'm going a bit bold, and I know it's not what you want to hear, but I'm going to go Atletico Madrid 3, Tottenham 1, and Tottenham already looking doomed and out of Europe. So I'm really sorry to say it, but I can't see anything else but that. And then another massive one. I said every tie was massive. Every time I look on my piece of paper here, it's like, wow, the next one is just another really tough one. It's Newcastle v Barcelona. Now, Newcastle have already played Barcelona in the competition. The night that Rashford got a couple of goals for Barcelona, and Barcelona on the night did look a cut above. So I do fear again for Newcastle in this. I think if Barca turn up and play their stuff, they're going to struggle, and it's going to be tough. So I do give them a little bit more hope that I think just St James Park is just a magical place on a European night. And I think it was a magical place on the first game, but it's going to be even more magical when it now comes out to the knockout stage. And I think the Geordie's going to be up for it. The crowd's going to be up for it. The Newcastle team's going to be up for it. And I think they know if they've got any chance of going through this tie, they need to produce something in this first leg at home. So I'm not giving them the win. I don't think it will be that one that we're talking about for years in terms of, can you remember when they beat Barcelona at home? Because I just think Barcelona across the board will be just a bit too strong. But I'm giving Newcastle a draw. And I think it's going to be 2-2. So I think Newcastle are going to be spirited. They're really going to do all right in this game. But then I think 2-2 won't be enough going back to the Nou Camp that's just opened. So getting back to the Nou Camp is just going to be a difficult task. And I see Barcelona at home just putting them out. But I think Newcastle will get a draw on the night. And then you go to Spain and who knows? You never know on a one night. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-2. And then we move on to Wednesday. We've got a couple of big games on Wednesday night, and the big ties just keep coming. We've got Chelsea away at PSG. Now, another brilliant tie. I mean, this week is a quality week for the football. I'm watching football. Unbelievable week. And the games are just the quality kind of games where they go toe-to-toe now and they go out for everything, just coming thick and fast. I can see Chelsea struggling here. And I keep thinking that I'm saying it about all the English teams at the moment, that yes, we've done so well, we've looked quality in Europe, but I just think these ties are so difficult. And you can only see Paris. Paris are going to be at it. Players there, I mean, they've got some quality, and they have put teams to the sword. They really have put teams to the sword in Paris over the last few years. And yes, Newcastle did well there recently, but I just think Chelsea, as good as they are going forward, I would worry about them defensively. I think they're a little bit too attacking and they're a bit fragile at the back. And if Paris were to get an early goal, I think it could be a really, really, really worrying night. I think if Chelsea hold out, and the longer they hold out and it goes on, then they could come away with a good result. But I think if PSG score in the first 20 minutes, the crowd's up, it's going to be hostile. I can just see a few going in. So I think they will get the early goal, and I think it's going to be a difficult night for Chelsea. And I think it's going to be Paris Saint-Germain 3, Chelsea 0. So I know this is English football, British football podcast, and it's not what we want to be hearing, but we have to be realistic. There's some big ties, and some of the English clubs are still going to be well placed for the second leg to have a real go. So it's not all doom and gloom for all the English clubs in Europe. Then we have, just a massive, we all knew when it was drawn, or, the chances of this, Real Madrid versus Man City, first leg in the Bernabeu. Real Madrid, it's one of them where they're so used to each other, I suppose, over the last few years. Whereas Real Madrid have gone through transition, different managers, caretaker managers. It doesn't quite work out. They've still got the basis of quite a few of the players that have been playing there for a few years. So they kind of have that continuity. Man City are a new side. So in terms of Real Madrid, they won't know as much about Man City as they would have in the previous contest, because there's a little bit different to expect with Pep developing these current new crop of City players. But City do look good, and I do fancy City to really turn up here. I really fancy them strongly, maybe to go to the Champions League final, maybe even win it this year. So they're kind of my dark horse for the whole competition. I just think it's going to really suit them in Europe. They've got a really good squad. They're getting better week by week, and I think they're going to go to the Bernabeu and they're going to win. And I think they're going to come back to Man City and they're going to destroy them at home. And I think Real Madrid are really going to struggle. I've just got a hunch. And I think it's going to be Real Madrid 1, Man City 2 in the first leg. An unbelievable result for City to bring back home and finish them off in the home leg. And then we go on to Thursday, wrapping up the episode. We're near the end now. Thursday night, we've got 3 clubs that have been brilliant in the Europa so far all season. They've done themselves no harm. But again, all of a sudden now, the previous ties that they had in the last round look far easier on paper than it does this week. This week looks really, really tough. And it's going to be really interesting. It's impossible to predict, isn't it? Anything can happen on any night. But I really think that they've got difficult ties again. And they're going to have to do so well over 2 games to beat these teams. You've got Aston Villa going away to France, away to Lille, all right, which is a difficult place to go. Difficult country to go in European football. And French teams historically decent at home in Europe. And Villa not really at the moment fighting well on all fronts. Like looking a shadow of the team that they were from previously in the season. So alarm bells are ringing a little bit. And I think going to Lille on Thursday night is a really, really another tough examination of their credentials in football. So it's going to be a tough one. I think if they get any sort of result that is not a defeat, they'll be delighted to come back to Villa Park. And then you would make them favourites. But I do think Lille's going to sneak this one 2-1. And I think Villa are going to really have to turn it on at Villa Park in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, I do fancy Lille at home to get something there. Nottingham Forest v Midtjylland. Again, Midtjylland, okay, massive data-driven club that have, punched above their weight for years now. Recruit really, really well. And another really good solid outfit. That this is going to be a difficult game for Forest. This will be the hardest one yet, where they'll find the style of Midtjylland really, really difficult to overcome. But I do give them hope. I think the away leg is more difficult. And I do think Forest could get their noses in front. But if they're going to, they're going to have to be superb on the night. But I'm going to back the Forest. And I'm going to back Gibbs White. All right. And Amari Hutchinson to cause them a few problems on the night. And let's back a Gibbs White goal for this one. And Forest to sneak it 2-1 at the City Ground, all right? And probably one of the most positive results this week in Europe for English teams. So come on, the Forest. Can you just get an aggregate lead to take back to Midtjylland? I hope so. And then to round up, we've got Crystal Palace, again against Larnaca, AK Larnaca. You know, a decent outfit. This will be tough for Palace. This won't be no cakewalk at all. But, you know, we've got to be positive on this channel. Come on. British channel, English YouTube channel. Come on the Palace. Let's do the magic at Selhurst and beat the Larnaca 2-0, all right, to round up a good week. What I'll do is I'll come back later in the week with another episode, rounding up the European football, looking ahead to the weekend's football, all right? But it's been great to come on camera. All right, keep safe out there. If you're doing any football this week or going to any games, make sure you enjoy it, all right? Give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Come on, it's free to do, Football Life legends. Football is life. See you all soon. Be good.